Good morning. I'd like to call the Community Services Committee meeting to order for Tuesday, May 19th. If we could get a roll call, please.
Ms. Weber?
Present.
Ms. Parker?
Present.
Ms. Polk?
Present.
Mr. Snipes?
Present.
Ms. Peters?
Present.
Ms. Dunbar? Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Zenz? Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Featherling?
He's still
He's
there.
on mute.
Hey, Ray.
Mr. Featherling?
Oh, now I'm unmuted. Yes, I'm here.
Ms. Zuccolo?
Present.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Present.
Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Searoy?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Ms. Weber, is it okay if I run the meeting from this location? She's on mute also. Sorry, they have a new feature that we'll be dealing with on Zoom. There is no mute all or unmute all. We have to go through and do each one of them. So their so-called upgrade makes things a little bit more cumbersome, especially for roll call votes and things like that. So there may be times where I have to pause while Kelly unmutes everything. We'll try to roll with that. I have nothing under public comment. Nobody notified us that they would like to speak. I guess moving on to approval of the minutes, February 18th and March 17th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Polk.
All right,
Polk and Eckhoff.
you got it. I guess there's all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Going to the county clerk, Dan Hendrickson. You won't be seeing him, board members, but he's in the back of the room. The public can see him. The public can see him, but you can't. So, all right, Dan.
Do you want to do the monthly report?
Yeah, monthly report. Is there a motion to approve the monthly report as presented?
So moved.
Mrs. Parker.
Second.
Second was, I believe, Antonio.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Good morning, everybody. Long time no see. Just wanted to touch base with you on a few things since the last time we talked. In light of the world that we're living in now, I did send out a survey on Facebook to see if people's voting preferences had changed in light of COVID-19. I put that out about a month or so ago. I got 605 responses to it. Of those 605 responses, 54% said they still intended to vote at the polling place on election day. 22%, actually almost close to 23% said that they were going to vote early at either a satellite location or our office, and 23% said that they would vote by mail. I looked at those figures compared to 4 years ago, and our satellite voting stayed roughly about the same percentages, within 1 or 2%. But the big surge was in voting by mail. In 2016, only about 5% of our ballots cast were through vote by mail. So it is going to be one of those things that we're going to have to take into account, regardless of what the legislature does in the next month or so, as far as laws for the November election. Certainly, we're going to have more people voting by mail, and there will be an expense to that. We've also sent out a survey to our election judges to see if they were intending to still serve as an election judge. And we've sent out to 315 judges. 209 have sent in their response so far. 18% of those judges have said that they're not interested in serving anymore. And 10% or 4% said they weren't sure. They were waiting to get more information on how the world's going to be at that time. So another concern that we're going to have coming up will be shortage of election judges. We are also sending out a survey, and it went out late last week, so we haven't had any responses yet about polling places to see if they're still interested in serving as polling places. I do know that we did have one polling place that asked us the day before the election to move, so we did have those challenges to get that polling place relocated on next to no notice. And I've gotten contacted from another polling place that asked if it's possible that we could possibly relocate. So I'm not sure where we're going to be with those, but I'll certainly keep you abreast on that as the meetings go by and any action that we'll need to take at that time. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Any questions from the committee? Mr. Seroy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Dan, what's your normal turnover rate for election judges?
I could count it in single digits for judges that don't work from one election to the next. And historically, the presidential election is the one where everybody wants to work.
Okay. Because I know you've always struggled finding election judges, so I was just wondering if there was a 10% turnover rate in some, or,
the odd year elections is where we tend to see a big drop off, but the general elections, not so much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr.
I have a
Eckhoff?
question.
Mr. Eckhoff, did you have something?
Yeah, Dan, you talked about an expense. Is that the expense to the county or to the state?
At
For
this
mail-in.
point, I've not seen any concrete figures for any funding coming from the state or federal. So that would be, at this point right now, general fund monies. I have seen some talk about legislation for us to mail a ballot out to every voter. There's a state senator, I want to say it's in the Rockford area, that is planning on proposing that. Just for some dollar figures for you, if we were to mail a ballot out, it costs us about $3.25 to mail a ballot out to a voter. That's the cost for the materials, cost for the ballot, and the postage. So $3.25 at our current registered voters, 66,500 and change. We're looking at over $216,000.
Are there?
Thank you, Dan.
And I'm sure there's no digital solution where people, because you're assuming they have internet, and all of it, would have to be a paper ballot. It couldn't be a link to go.
We don't have the mechanism now for non-military voters, the legal mechanism. Military voters can vote. We can email them a ballot, but legislation would need to change for us to email ballots to regular voters.
Okay. Any other? I'm sorry, there was others. Mrs. Weber.
Yes, I called Dan's office yesterday, and I also went online and found the application for voting by mail. It's only one page, and your office person said that if a person applies to a vote by mail, the ballots will send out whenever it's time to send them out. So a person could mail in a request at any time, and you would just wait to send out the ballot.
Correct. Yeah, we wouldn't at the current schedule, as things stand right now, we wouldn't be mailing ballots out until, I believe it's the next to last Saturday in September.
Then my second question was on your income over the month that the building was closed, did it actually go in half? Did you have half of the receipts you usually do, or what?
It was a little bit better than half, but I'd probably say that we're down in the 6 weeks that we were appointment only, down 30 to 40%. Since we've been open, we've seen a little bit of an uptick in people coming in, but we're not getting people coming in to get birth certificates to get their driver's license because they can't get their driver's license yet. We're not getting people in to do their passports because nobody's flying any place. So some of those services, we've seen a lot of marriage licenses. We've seen an uptick in people coming in to get married, but and delinquent tax redemptions is a little bit of a cyclical thing, and we were coming into a point where interest rates were going to be going up on those people that had delinquent taxes. So we've seen a little bit of an uptick in that as well. But overall, I would say that we're just a little bit busier than when the doors were closed.
there any other questions for Dan on that? Anything else, Dan?
Yeah,
Oh,
if, Janice Peters,
yes, Janice.
about how many judges, if you have to go through the total amount of judges, about 18%, what number would that be? How many people?
That would be probably close to 50, 55 judges.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I have a question for Dan.
sure, go ahead.
And when you send a ballot out to somebody in the mail and it goes to their house, how do you know it's actually the person that you send it to who's sending it back and voted on it?
The person that's mailed the ballot is also sent a certification envelope that they need to fill out and send back. And we're comparing that signature on the certification envelope to their voter registration signature.
So when it comes in, you're checking signatures then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What if they've never voted before?
Well, they would be registered to vote, though.
Okay.
And so basically, people would not be able to register same day unless they came in.
Correct.
Right, there's no way to do.
They
register
couldn't do same-day registration by mail.
By mail, exactly. Yeah, they couldn't send everything in at once.
Correct.
Okay.
Just one of,
Mr. Snipes?
one other variable, because we notice this a lot when mails is going to the wrong house and these individuals do not turn that mail in or do it 2 or 3 weeks later. It's probably a small variable, but it's a variable that kind of is reserved in my mind that deals with some of this. One of the opportunities where a person's vote will not be counted, not because it's their fault, but the mailing was sent to the wrong address. Recently, I got a mail. I live at 1371. Someone sent me mail at 1371 with a New York address. So I took it to the post office and they looked and they said, "What?" And they couldn't believe it, but yet it got to me. It's supposed to be mailed to New York, but it came to me. Is there any safeguards with the post office to ensure that these mailings are going to get to an individual, or if they're not submitted back in a timely fashion, is there any way that that person can be reached out to if we mail something out and they have not voted? That would be very difficult, but I'm thinking of what safeguards can we put in place, or can we put something in place?
Well, certainly we're dancing in hypothetical area now. I would want to see what the language of the legislation is before I talked about any, specific steps to do. So I think at this point it's premature to talk about, the things that we would do at the post office if we're not going to be sending ballots out to everybody.
Okay, well, it makes sense. I was just wondering, because I know when they add these variables, sometimes they don't take into consideration other things that can basically happen. But I'm the traditional, I like to go to the polling place, but just had to ask the question just in case.
Is there any other questions for Dan? Dan, did you have anything else today?
Not at all.
All right. I guess moving on then. Thank you.
Thank you all. Be safe.
Moving on to Eric Blair, our assessor, who is, again, he's in the back of the room as well. We have his monthly report. Is there a motion to approve the monthly report?
So move.
Mr. Kirkstra, second. Mr. Snipes.
Yeah.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Eric, you got the floor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just have a few things to go over with you since we last met a couple of months ago. I wanted to let you know that the priority of our office this time of year, even under normal circumstances, would be to maintain the database of record for tax bill mailing address. and things like that as the treasurer starts to get ready to mail tax bills. That's something that comes in through the deeds, and we've done that. We kept up with all of the deed entry, even with the building closure and some rotational staff. We were able to make sure that as many of the tax bills will go to the right name and the right address as possible. And I think that's a positive sign for us to make sure that the treasurer is mailing to the right places. I also wanted to let you know that I did receive the certified 2021 farmland PI values from the Department of Revenue, which will allow me to move forward with a farmland assessment review committee meeting that typically takes place in June. So I'm going to try to select a date and get something done there. But we did have, it saddens me to say this, we lost a member of our committee who passed away. Mike Burjoyce passed away. So my thoughts are with him and with his family as they go through this time, and hopefully we'll be able to fill that slot on the committee soon. So those were a couple of the things that I wanted to bring up. Normally this time of year, I'm also talking about the fact that we've received some information from the Department of Revenue on sales ratio study and things like that. That's in my pending part this month, because with social distancing and things of that nature, the Department of Revenue, even in Springfield, of course, they're working from home. I reached out to them on April 24th because I hadn't received the detailed sales list yet. And they told me that they were working through final abstracts exclusively at that point, and they would get to the sales ratio studies when they could. A bit of good news, I talked to a couple of smaller counties that had their sales ratio studies given to them, so I think that's in the pipeline for us. We'll get it soon, but I don't have it yet. So it's something that I hope to complete before we meet again in June. But right now I'm still waiting on that detailed sales list. And just to give you an idea, the detailed sales list is a precursor. It's something that we reconcile with the Department of Revenue if we disagree on whether a sale would qualify for the study or not. And then the second part of what I had as pending is the certification of the list. That's when we've already reconciled, and they give me a final list with all of the medians and everything on it, which will allow me to move forward with equalization in the summer. So you know, it was a trying time through the closure of the building, but now that we're back open, I think we're getting back to where we would normally be. Some normalcy is good now with everything going on. So with that, I'll turn it over to the committee for any questions, if you have any, please.
Any questions for Mr. Blair from the committee? Mrs. Weber.
Thank you. I talked to Eric yesterday because on his report there are no income from copies for the month, and he said that wasn't a worrisome thing. The building was closed for people, so it's hard to copy, but it wasn't a big part of the budget anyhow. Other months have been just 102 and 136 and 131, so that wasn't a big import in a big revenue item to have 0 copies.
As a comment to that, quickly, you know, with the building being locked and you know, basically closed down to the public, obviously we didn't have any over-the-counter transactions where people were buying property record cards or you know, obtaining those records from us. Really, what we were doing too with the building closure, and we've been doing this in the last couple of years, is educating people that they can access a lot of that data online with GIS for free. So if they navigate to GIS, they can get certain records there and print it from home and not even have to come in and see us with it. Now, we did during the month of April, of course, there were some phone calls where people, appraisers or so forth, might need things to be faxed to them or emailed to them, and those are things that if they have an account with us, we will bill them and they pay later. So we just haven't seen that income come in yet. So for the month of April, because there really wasn't anything coming in, you know, 50 cents a copy, we didn't see any change like that. That's why that 0 appears in April. But some of that revenue is going to show up in May and June. it's a pretty nominal amount that we normally collect anyway.
Any other questions for Eric? I had one, the Farmland Review Committee that meets downstairs in that conference room,
Typically, it would meet on the second floor.
second floor.
But
Yeah.
this year, I think, did you have more? I didn't want to cut you off there.
Well, I'm just wondering, you know, I think it was 3 members on that.
It's 3 members from the Farm Bureau, and it would be myself as the chairman, and then the chairman of my board of review is also on the committee. So there's 5 of us total.
Okay. Just the social distancing, because I'm sure the people that are under review have to come in, are you gonna Zoom them in, or how's that gonna work, or?
I am planning, I was assuming that we would be allowed under, and I have to wait to see if we're gonna be allowed to use Zoom in June if the executive order gets
Right.
extended. I heard you say that at the full county board meeting last week, so I'm kind of waiting to see how that's going to work in June. But yeah, I was planning on not having people come in necessarily. If we could just, a lot of that meeting honestly is the committee giving consent to me to go ahead and use the certified numbers that the state gave us. And so I need a vote on that to make sure that we're not going to go in a different direction. But going in a different direction is extremely expensive, and it's not something that the Department of Revenue would readily permit us to do unless we had a real reason to go away from those certified values. So, but I am thinking about alternative ways to do the meeting because in person may not be the best practice right now.
Well, if it helps, we can use this room.
I
To
appreciate
spread
that.
people out, because your 5 members still have to be spread out.
Sure,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, just let us know.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Eric? All right, good deal. Thank you. Oh, you had something else for the committee?
Just happy Memorial Day, folks. Take care.
All right. See ya. Thank you.
Yep.
All righty, moving on. We have the recorder report from Lori Gadboy. Her monthly report. Is there a motion to approve?
Eckhoff.
Peters,
Eckhoff,
second.
and Peters with the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Yeah, you got the floor, Lori. Is she muted? She's muted.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
I just wanted to start out by saying that through all of the new regulations that I've been adhering to, I want to compliment my staff for just doing an awesome job and really being understanding and flexible through all of this and continuing to be accessible for our searchers, for the banks, for the lawyers, for the title companies. We have maintained and continued business operations through all of this. And I look at the numbers, you're going to see a comparison. If you look at last year, just the last 3 months alone for this year in 2020, our revenue numbers have been higher. So we have been able to maintain, improve financially through all of the current situation.
Alrighty. Was there any questions for Lori about her office or anything going on there from the committee? Mrs. Weber.
Yesterday when Lori and I talked, I mentioned that on the copy of the packet that I received, the totals weren't printed. So she gave me those numbers, and they are fine numbers. She probably has them handy there. But if your copy of the sheet that we received, the last column probably outside a margin or something. But what she mentioned is that your numbers are pretty consistent, Lori.
Yes, and consistently increasing. I did a calculation just in terms of volume, document volume, and last year to this year, we're up 30 documents more compared to last year for the month of April. So clearly with the interest rates being low, our volume of refis are coming in. So that's a great thing. So on a positive note, we're seeing good, strong consistency in terms of recording. So I'm very happy to report it.
Alrighty, any other questions? Comments? All right, great. Thanks, Lori. Have a good day. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Alrighty, moving on. Animal control. From Carrie Laird, I have a monthly report. Is there a motion to approve?
A motion.
From Mrs. Akulo
Second.
and Mr. Snipes
Aye.
with the second. All those in favor of the monthly report, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hey, Carrie.
She's muted.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Want me to go over the report, or do you want to prove it?
We already did.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right, I'm sorry.
So not much to report. Basically, our funds this month remain the same as last year around this time. So you can see that's been great so far. I have noticed that so far May has been a little bit slower. Hopefully it'll pick back up. Our inventory for animals has been very low. At one point we had 1 dog and 1 cat in our facility. It's been spectacular to have that. Gives us more time to clean the facility and get things done that way. The shelter manager, Kelly Bloom, has gotten all of our animals that have been adoptable out to other rescues. I'm sure you've noticed that the rescues in the area and outside the area are always looking for animals to be adopted, and adoptable animals to adopt out. People are more interested in having animals at this time. So it's been great to have that. One thing we've been doing differently is returning to animals in field rather than bringing them back to our facility. If they are able to be returned in field, we've been doing that. So that's about all I have.
And I'm sorry, returning field, does that mean you know who the owner is and you just bring him back?
Yes,
Or?
yeah,
Okay.
they call back to animal control, make sure that the dog is current and microchipped, and once that's happened, then we return it in field when the owner's on scene.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
And being that we're starved for revenue, if you will, is that, because that supports your operations, do they still have to pay in that situation for the service?
So
you know?
they haven't. That was in the beginning when we tried to not bring animals to our facility for fear that, if you go into these residences, you could catch the COVID, all this kind of things that we worried about that to begin with. So it was easier on our staff to not bring them back to our facility. We have brought them back to our facility if we, have to. So our revenue did remain the same for last year as this year for the month.
Any questions for Carrie? Mrs. Weber.
I noticed that your inventory states 8 dogs, 3 cats at this time. So is that giving you an opportunity to continue to upgrade your facilities and as you wanted to do, put more locks on, or what are you doing with the building?
So we haven't asked for anybody to come in because we've been trying to, not have so many people in our shelter for fear of, something coming in there, and try to keep everybody out of that way. So we haven't asked anybody else to come in this time. Our volunteers have not come in either.
Any other questions?
Well,
All right, great. Thank you so much, Carrie. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Weber.
I think Tinker is probably going to address the one I had, so let's go forward.
Okay, under the monthly statistical data, or the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. I apologize.
That's okay.
We have a monthly update from Tinker Parker. Tinker.
Yes, we haven't met since March because of the COVID. We're hoping to get together sometime, I hope in June, to discuss some things. I've been getting some, and I think, Andy, you have been getting the same emails from some residents about the swap meet. Even though it's not been open, there's been a lot of people concerned about the welfare of farm animals out there. And as we explained, that is, and Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, that farm animals belong to the Department of Ag for safety. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's what we were telling them, but there hasn't been a swap meet out at the county grounds yet. So we're not quite sure what they were talking about. And but I referred them to the Department of Ag when they did contact me. So we're taking care of that. The other thing that I'm concerned about too is a lot of people, it seems, are adopting pets during this COVID isolation. And my concern is this, and just a reminder, is that when things get back to normal, when and if it does, that animals are used to having you home and used to the company of humans, and you might want to start doing a little bit of training them of being gone from the house so they get used to it, because you don't know what kind of behaviors to expect once you go. And two, owning an animal is a big responsibility, and just because you have to go back to work, not a reason to take it back to the shelter. Really try to work with that animal at home. And that's all I have, Chairman.
Is there any questions about Mrs. Weber?
I was just going to ask Carrie, there probably is screening before an animal is adopted, right? To make sure that they have a home life.
Each shelter is different. They have their own adoption process, but we don't do in-home visits at our animal control, but we do screen them, and if they do have another animal, we have them bring their animal in to make sure that the animals will get along.
Mm-hmm.
And we did put more information on our website recently regarding bites, because we have noticed people are home more, and so they get in their dogs' faces. Their dogs aren't used to them being home, so dogs' bites were occurring, at a more frequent rate. We have put more information on the website about that.
Good. Thank you, Carrie.
All right. Any other questions? Comments? All right. Thanks, Tinker.
You're welcome, Chairman.
Moving on to new or old business. Any new old business for community services? Well, I guess then it would be a motion to adjourn is in order.
I make a motion.
Mr. Kirkstra, a second?
I second.
From Mrs. Akulo, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Great. Have a good day.